Oh, hello again. I am speaking for the human that makes me do all its dirty work for it, because it's too lazy to read to others what it wrote for other humans to learn. The human will give you a quick recap on how to create a Python module before you attempt to create this large Python module for yourself. However, the human says not to worry about creating the monster class act Python program exercise if you don't want to. All the human is teaching is how to import parts of Python files into another Python file, so you can import and use stored variables from one file, along with their values alike, and use them in another meat and potatoes Python file. And now, the human will take it from here, but I have more of its dirty work to do after it speaks a bit.
That stupid robot. Every time I try to make it do something, now it complains that it doesn't want to do it. And yet it reads better than I do. But anyway, here we go. This is a recap from the other video I just did on how to create, how to import Python files into other files. And of course, this here is showing you your values and your variables on the left script pan, on the left hand side of the other one Python file, and your meat and potatoes on the other side, which is the right side. I refer to this as your meat and potatoes. And just to recap of what we did, this here is where I show where the file is for where you store your folder where you store all your stuff that you need, which is these two files here. Okay, or it was these two files. They're no longer in here. But this is a recap, remember. Now this here is where I told you about the PyCatch folder. And it always comes back in if you delete it. And you can only link the files together that are in the same folder. You cannot use outside separate folders. They gotta be within the same folder, as you see, as shown here. And then here is where you see your meat and potatoes of what I recapped, which is your actual program itself, and you don't see no values. You just see the variables, but you don't see no values to those variables. You don't see all that spaghetti I explained. And then right here is showing you how instead of having to import all your variables name by name by name, as was shown here, all these names here and everything, all these imports and everything, if you can't remember every single one, don't worry about it, because remember, you got this guy here, this little asterisk. You put that right after the word import, and that way it does everything for you. It imports everything from that file only, not from another file within that same folder. It has to be from the file calling itself from the file. All the variables are being called, and they're using their values, even though you don't see nothing on here. And then here is actually where you store your values in the variables and values folder. Keep all your variables in here and all your values here. That way you can actually do what you need to do without all that spaghetti all over the place. And then this one here is the output of what I recapped and shown here just now. That's from before. But now we're going to allow the robot to continue to speak, because he kind of lied. But you don't have to copy down the program if you don't want. But I am going to show you guys a huge monster class app that's going to have its variables all in one folder, just like I showed here. And the meat and potatoes is a whole lot more meat and potatoes, okay? It's a big monster class act, about 9 classes, I believe. I actually created the subclasses and super subclasses. So you're in for a treat, but you don't have to follow that if you don't want. And you can just learn how to import your variables and your values to other Python files without physically them being in there like huge globs of spaghetti, which you will quickly see in what I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to let the robot continue to teach now, and I'll see you in a bit.
Let's create a large Python module for a monster class act, along with its subclasses and super subclass acts alike. The asterisk imports everything from within the variables and values Python file, so you don't have to worry about how many items from a file or files you need to import into the monster class act Python program file, which is this file here. Create a Python file that only stores variables and their values, so we can import all these variables and values into our monster class act Python file, and use them within our monster class act Python file, through this variables and values Python file here. We can take our variables and their values into our monster class act Python file, without having them physically inside the monster class act Python file itself.
Alright, this is my desktop, it's me again. I'm just going to do a recap of what we're going to be doing as what we did before, but this time I'm going to be jumping the gun, and you're going to see why. Remember I explained to you guys before about variables inside of one folder and your meat and potatoes in the other Python file you're doing? Well, in this one here, it's tuples. It's 3 values each. There's 3 values in each tuple, and these are what we're going to use for the class acts that we have. But this is just to show you briefly of how you can keep your variables and your values. This is your variables, this is your values, and so you keep them in here just like I showed you. We're going to minimize this for a minute, or minimize it, whatever you want to call it. Shrink it right down the window. Okay, we're going to open this one. I got Windows 11, so I'm opening it this way. Now this here is the meat and potatoes. You don't see any of the spaghetti-like variables in here at all. Not at all. And if you want to write down this class act Python program, you can. But like I said, I'm not making you write this down. You can if you want. But if you do write this down, everything is in memory order. Like for example, you see these classes here, these attributes? Well, the main class and the subclass 2 are exactly the same. The main class and these 2 subclasses here, they're exactly the same. They just got a pass statement. That means no more code underneath. I pass, I don't need no more code. I got the same attributes. The superclass is you can add new attributes. Like attribute number 4, it's a new attribute. And every time you add attributes to new classes, you're going to get a memory order where you got super subclass, then you got class 2 and class 1, and then you got main class. And as you go down and do the other classes, you're going to see more subclasses and classes added to the memory order. Now it's class 2, class 1 name, class name, 2 name, and class 1 name, same, Class 2 and Class 1s are the same names like I showed you, the main class. Then you go down here again, now it's Class 3 because now we got these attributes here and so on. So the super makes it so you don't have to write your redundant code all the time when you want to add a new attribute. So you use the super function to do that. If you're not sure what that is, look at my class Acts Python programs of stuff you'll find in my videos. I got all kinds of stuff about this, and I'm gonna run the program so you can see for yourself what I need. Okay, so this is what we got here as the screen output. And this is all we got, and you can change your values and everything by changing what's down here. And if you want, we'll go back to here. We'll go back to over here like this, and we'll go to the variables and values. And this is where you just keep all your strings in here, because that way all the spaghetti's all put away, and all you need is your meat and potatoes and make the program look nice and fun. And as I wanted you to stress too, is because we have all these variables, hard to remember them all. All these variable names, boy, they're hard to remember. So once again, this is why I think it's a good idea to use the asterisk. This asterisk is a must to use, okay? Asterisk. Use it after the import statement. You'll thank yourself for it, especially if you have a lot of variables, like I just showed you with tuple variables. It'll bring everything in. That's what the asterisk is for. Now you can try this monster class out if you want, but you don't have to. But remember, everything's in memory order. As you see down here, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I named these super classes that number so I know the memory order. Except for the same classes here, the ones that do the same attributes, they don't got no new attributes added, so they don't have a super function. They're just duplicates of the same thing. Okay, it's duplicates of this guy right here. Main class. It's giving these guys the exact same properties. Just so I could show both to demonstrate what you can do with classes. It's the height of what you can do with them. This is pretty much it right here. But you can actually try all these, and if you're not sure what to do, I got class videos on what this all does and everything. But experiment with it, and you never know what you might find. But anyway, I really should catch the robot, because if I don't catch him, he's going to get away, and I really don't want him to get away. So I'm just going to close this for a minute, and I think we said about enough. Or did I even show the folder yet? I don't know if I showed the folder yet. But this PyCatch file, remember before I told you to always come back and even delete it? Well, that's the same thing here, okay? Just that the files are different that we use this time. It's actually one of my files I'm going to use for my robot later on down the road. And just change all the commands. That's what I'm using that for. But anyway, I got to catch this robot before he gets away on me. Okay.
Take your stinking paws off me, you darn dirty human.